Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Skillless Podcast. I'm Matt Corradino, Caribbean Earth Skills.
I'm Brad Salon, Root School.
Yeah. This week,
Episode 3 of Sweating in Paradise.
Sweating in Paradise. Just a little. So, yeah, this week we're going to talk about, we were talking about, common mistakes that we see for students who are just getting into the survival skills game. Maybe some mistakes we made. And I would say, I guess, okay, so like how would we define a mistake? You know?
Fucking it up. You just don't fuck it up and it'll be fine.
All right, episode over.
Yeah, exactly.
No, well, I was thinking more, being efficient with your time,
Right.
A mistake would be if I spent a whole bunch of time focusing in this sort of way and getting an outcome that I wasn't looking for in the first place.
Right.
So, where to put your time to get the most out of it, which I guess kind of begs the question of like, what is it that you're trying to get out of it? I think that's like an important thing just right there, like, are you looking to have this just be a hobby that you get into on the side? Are you just looking to like make something cool, do some basket making because you're into basket making and that's what you want to do?
Right.
Or even just like, are you looking to be like overall a hobbyist, right? I just want to make cool stuff, or I think this is kind of cool. Or do you want to know how you would survive if you had nothing? And I see a lot of people who seem to get into it in the first place with this whole idea of, I'm going to be able to just live with nothing. And then a year or 2 or 3 down the road, they're either like done with it because it didn't scratch the itch that they were actually looking to scratch, or they have that one thing that they finally focus on and they're, maybe felt like they were wasting some time with some of the other stuff. I think that's just an important place to start, like sitting
what
with
are
yourself.
Your goals?
Yeah, what am I really trying to get out of this? Like, What is it about this that makes me stoked? I think a lot of times it's like, I deal with a lot of, not everybody. I get the whole spectrum, but I feel like I do deal with a lot of people who like coming from when I say no experience, I mean like no experience outdoors. And, some people just like didn't realize they just want to be outside, hanging out, actually being out in the wild and not just like, mixing with the wild like most people do, which is on the phone taking selfies of themselves in the woods.
No, it is interesting. Like you really do. We get like a pretty full gamut of kind of who we're into or who's into it at what level. And like, especially broadly from your basketry student who just wants to come build a willow basket to someone who's taking survival classes. They have pretty different goals. I think like one of the mistakes, well, I don't even know if it was a mistake, but I could have had a lot more fun with the skills earlier on if I had taken myself a little less seriously.
Meaning you didn't,
like my success with the skills was too much a part of how I felt about myself, my ego, that held me back in different ways because it made it so that instead of just immediately learning from my mistakes and moving on, I was too focused on like, what does that say about me? Or like, I'll never get where I want to be, or, I suck.
So you're talking about taking yourself too seriously, meaning unrealistic goals of where you were at.
Yeah.
On your journey with these skills.
Right, or relating, like people tend to mix their self-worth with their success at a skill. And, as an 18-year-old dude, that's like a pretty easy mistake to make. But it definitely held me back. Like
18-year-old dude, bro, kicking himself.
Well, and I'll catch myself still in that tendency and very conscientiously make the decision to be like, oh, I'll fail at this publicly even. I don't give a shit. Like, I'll rub my own nose in my failure just so that, like, or be deprecating about it, just so that I'm not making that mistake. Because it's like, at the end of the day, am I succeeding at getting a little better is more important to me than did I succeed at the ultimate goal of like being as good as I want to be at a given skill set. You know,
I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see is like, you don't even know what the hell success is in the early going most of the time.
Right.
I mean, obviously, like success with bow drill is, in theory, getting a fire. But it might not even be that, because you might not be at that stage yet. Or you might get success with the bow drill, but your form might be shitty, and then you're not going to get it when the conditions are worse.
right.
Or, you know, there's a lot of different ways to parse that success. And I think that's something that I always am reminding people of, is, especially working with kids and teens,
Right.
is like, I find myself saying very, very often to them, no, you're not bad at this, you're just a beginner. And you can't be bad at it when you're a beginner.
Right.
Because you're just a beginner. And so I definitely would say I fell into that trap. I don't know if I was like beating myself up so much as what I perceived as failures kept me from going down paths that I should have been going down if I wanted to be good at certain aspects of a skill.
Well, right. I mean, yeah,
You
totally.
know, like, oh, that's too hard. I suck at it. It's not worth it. When it's like, no, it is hard. I don't suck at it. I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing yet.
Well, right, and it's kind of funny because people get it intuitively with something like guitar. Like nobody would take like a weekend guitar lesson and be like, "I'm going to be amazing at guitar after 2 days of it." But people take a survival skills
I
class.
couldn't stand listening to myself play that thing so shittily. It's like, like, oh, no, I'm not listening to that shit no more. It's the bass. You just got to play one note repeatedly, over and over again.
But I see that like people will take a class and they expect that that bought solution is going to equal success, when it's really like, buckle up if you want to learn these skills. Make like a yearly plan of like, will I be better at this in 6 months or a year?
I would say don't even like, I mean, maybe it would help if you didn't even care about whether you were good or not.
Well,
But
at some point,
value
though,
on. Well, I mean, I think if you put value
landmarks,
on spending time,
right? But
you'll hit the landmarks. But I see what you mean. It's nice to have a landmark so you can be like, oh, okay, maybe I should put more time into that because I didn't get to where I knew how to build a shelter.
well, right, and that's where I think long-term education is good, or at least like, if you do take a class, like, ask somebody like, okay, you've demonstrated flint knapping. You've talked about it. What's a realistic time frame in which I could make a saw? Oh, 2 days? Cool. What's a realistic time frame in which I could make an arrowhead good enough to hunt a deer with? Like a year or more? Cool.
Well, you know, it's tough though. So
it's good to know like what the realistic time frame is.
I guess this probably applies to anything, but you can luck into that success many times. That was definitely a mistake that I made. Is it would be like bow drill's a perfect example. I carved my kit. It wasn't really the best looking kit. I asked Ruth Ann, who was be on our next episode because she was an instructor at the time, hey, what do you think about this? Kind of knowing when I was looking at it, this isn't very good. And she was like, oh, see how it works, right? Got a success with it, made a fire, made a couple more fires with it, but never fixed some of those problems. Never had anybody that was really sitting with me and saying, hey, this, that, and this about your form. And part of the reason why I didn't have this is I wasn't seeking it because I got the coal.
Right.
And I was like, oh, success. And then I went through like 6 months of not being able to get a fire no matter what I did. No matter what I did. All these different, this wood, that wood, the other wood. Let me change that. Let me change this. Let me change that. And then through that dirt time, eventually, I think I was just like, mistaking my way into some decent form.
Right.
This kind of keeps failing. Damn, why does that keep failing? Oh, well, maybe if I hold my hand like this. All right. And then at a certain point, it was like, I was just kind of efficient at it. But that 6 months could have been, could have been more pleasant.
Right. Well, that's an interesting point too. Like, I feel like one mistake students make, or I see a lot, is that they want to do it their own way. And I'm like, if you're going to take a class and pay me for my time,
oh
like,
my God.
do it my way until you can make it work, and then make modifications in your own time that make it work better or work better for you.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm going to take a class from somebody, I'm going to listen to what they have to say really carefully. I'm going to watch what they personally do, and if I can look over their shoulder, like first person perspective as much as possible without putting my head physically next to their head, because it's weird.
Can we touch ears while I do this bow drill, Brad?
But that's the view that I want, is like, what does it
Right
look
on
like
top
in
of
their
them.
hands? And then, I'll watch instructions they give to other students, and then ask, like, I'll get as far as I can, and I'll mentally try and answer the questions that I have, and then I'll bring it to them and say, like, hey, where am I at? And just let them talk. And if I was right, great. I'm not going to be like, oh, I knew it. I knew that was the answer.
Let them
Because
talk.
I'd rather not annoy the fuck out of them. But then also, like, yeah, the more you engage with it. And then I would say that's the other mistake. The other side of that mistake is, like, I definitely have had people take a bow class, and essentially I just made a bow with their hands.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
And they want like a line drawn for everything,
Can't
and
stand
they
it
can't
either.
think
I'm like,
for
oh, you got to be
themselves,
artistic about. Well, can you draw me another line? Like,
Yeah.
no, there's no drawing a line at this
right,
point.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
How many more scrapes do I have to take?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
it's my
like,
least favorite.
when it's done.
He said 200 again. I heard him. He's fucking making me do this shit again.
Another pass.
Oh,
Another
yeah.
pass. Another pass. Yeah, students get sick of hearing it, but realistically, it's like the wood has the answers.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like, I am here to help translate for the wood.
You're mostly sitting there trying to teach them how to learn to ask the question.
Right, and how to use their eyes and fingers to get answers.
It's so crazy how it's the simple. I mean, it's so fucking simple.
Well, right. Bow making
But you
is a
can't
hard
see
skill,
it.
though.
It
Right,
is hard.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so hard.
It's hard just to have the confidence in what you're seeing.
Exactly. And to you, flat and even is totally not flat and totally not even.
Right.
And then once you see it, you're like, oh shit, yeah, I get it,
yeah.
flat and even.
And so that's
But you
what I
gotta
would
feel
say
it.
is, like, you got to work both sides of that coin. Is like, am I engaging with the skill? Am I asking questions? Am I doing what the instructor's telling me? And then on the other side, like, am I making it my own by engaging with it and asking those questions on my own and, like, thinking through the answer before I go and get the answer?
I think something that you had said in there made me think of, like, that's a pretty common one there. And our whole society is, like, not trying to be the star of your own little movie.
Yeah.
But, like, the skill is the star. The movie is, like, something else that's happening. And you're supporting that star, which is the skill itself.
Right.
And that comes back to what you were saying about, like, tying your self-worth into that skill. Well, it doesn't have to have anything to do with you in the first place. It's like, is there worth in the skill itself?
Right.
And start with that worth. And if there's no worth in it, then don't keep doing it.
Right.
Right? It doesn't have value to you, then don't keep doing it. And that's definitely a piece of advice that I generally tend to give to pretty much everybody is, like, just stick with what you're stoked with at first. Because
Yes.
eventually it's going to turn into the next thing and turn into the next thing and turn into the next thing.
Yeah, that's huge.
And I think that's something that people get stuck in a lot is, like, they want to be good at everything. So they're looking at it like, what can I do or what can I not do? Versus, like, okay, I want to be good at everything. How does this fire thing work?
Right.
Right. It's like, it's yeah. And I do the same thing myself, spend too much time thinking about who I am in this whole journey versus, like, what that skill is. Who is that skill? Who, do I know that skill? Is it a friend of mine? Not, does that skill know me?
Right.
And that's a big, tripping up part right there. It's one of the things that I never really thought of in this way before, but when I took a class at Tracker School and Tom made that part about not believing what he said as an instructor, but to prove him right or to prove him wrong, it works pretty well in that whole, like, where it's like, okay, this is about trying to do the thing, not to become really great at it, but okay, let me see if I can prove this person wrong, right? It's going to make the person actually try to do the skill versus, you know.
I always thought that was such a brilliant cop-out, too. Because you could always just be like, well, prove me right or prove me wrong, you know? Maybe I was kidding about that.
No, come on.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
I do know what you're saying.
It inspires the right attitude, though, which is like, test it.
Exactly.
And I had a funny experience when I was a student at that school where, like, I was like, can you make a bow drill out of this, knowing it was an incredibly dense wood? It was Osage orange. And an instructor there was like, no. And then I made one and lit it, and they were like, God damn it. But is it a reasonable wood? Hell no. Like, carving an Osage orange kit takes longer than lighting the coal does. Like,
definitely not.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to even try and carve a notch in that shit.
Well, so the other part about that whole statement, prove me right or prove me wrong, is just like, it's okay to prove something's wrong.
Right.
And you don't have to be successful every time to learn. You're likely to learn more from not being successful under certain conditions. Like the story I was telling, right? It's like I made a fire, but I didn't really learn how to do the bow drill very well until I suffered through all that time of doing it wrong all those times, and through all that time eventually got to where it was like I understood what to do. But that success that I got in the beginning stopped me from really exploring it in the way that I might have, right? And then I just did it the way that I did it, that it worked the one time, instead of changing what I was doing because I made it work the one time. And the same for flint knapping, right? I really want to make a good arrowhead. Well, I might just hit it the right 2 or 3, or start with the right piece and hit it in the right place and end up with something that kind of works. And then I might spend months trying to do that same thing again. What I was so much of a beginner didn't realize, like, how important it was that it looked exactly how it looked when I started off.
Right.
And you can't know that as a beginner until you've spent a bunch of times failing, and flailing at it.
Well, and that's one of the interesting, like, kind of dichotomies too, where you have to balance, like, the idea of it's about the journey, not the destination. And it's like, well, no, sometimes it is about the fucking destination. Like, sometimes you need success with the skill, especially if we're looking at, like, survival skills or navigation or, you know, coming home alive, or like we're going to talk about with Ruth Ann, like delivering a baby. Like, you want results.
Yeah, you want certain results.
Yeah.
Like very specific results.
But then at the same time, like, the act of learning a skill and getting good at it, it's not about just getting the fire. Like you said, it's about learning to make fire. Because then you're able to adapt to different situations. You're able to use different woods. You're able to, like, work within whatever set of tools you have, because you're a fire maker and you understand how the process works. You haven't just done it once.
Which is a different destination than I want to make a fire.
Right.
I guess, like that story I was telling about the friend who had another friend who really wanted to have a spear point. Or trying to show him how to make the spear point, and at a certain point, he literally said, I don't want to know how to make a spear point, I just want a spear point.
Right.
And Kaiser gave him the spear point, and he went and killed a pig with it and left it in the guts.
Yeah.
And I remember clearly being like, Bill, you're going to regret that. And he was like, whatever, dude, you're such a fucking hater. And I was like, well, maybe, but that's not the point here. And he came back, well, sweet, well, where's the point? Oh, what do you mean? I left it with the guts. And he's like, what? Yeah. You left that spear point in the pig guts? Like, well, yeah, I got the pig.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, beware that person there. Like, what are you getting in for here? And there's nothing wrong with that person having that attitude towards that, right?
Right.
But
I guess then the thing there, the mistake would be, like, don't buy a solution or think you can buy a solution unless you're just trying to buy a solution.
Yeah.
You know, like,
exactly.
If you don't really want to be good at the skill, you just want to buy the solution or the experience, then, like,
buy it on eBay.
Right. Or, like, you can come to a class and I can get you to make a fire or a bow within the allotted time of the class.
That doesn't
but
mean
if
you're
you
gonna
want to
know how to
learn
do that
bow
shit.
making, right,
Yeah.
you better expect to, like, go home and build 5 bows, or, you know, go home and make 200 fires.
Yeah, do I want to have the thing, or do I want to be able to have the thing anytime because I want to be able to make it?
Right.
And that's an important way to look at it too. Like, you know, not every person in that tribal situation could do all the things that were needed to survive if they were left on their own, not for, you know, a protracted period of time. And that was okay, right? And I think that, you know, there's a lot of, I don't want to call it mythology because it doesn't have the lessons that mythology usually has, but, you know, there's a lot of, like, mythology in this in all sorts of schools and lineages of how we've gotten to this today, where it's like being cool, the cool survivor guy, the able person, the self-made person.
Right.
And I think a lot of times that's not really what people are after. And they might spend a long time like struggling, turning their wheels with something that in the long run they don't really like value of its own, you know, for its own sake.
Right.
And I'm trying to think like what skills are there that I'm just like, I don't want to do that. Right? I don't feel like doing that. That's not really my thing. I don't want to put the time to it. I mean, for me, I kind of get pretty stoked on most all of it. I mean,
yeah, but there's things you haven't pushed as hard as others.
Oh, definitely.
That, like,
definitely.
You've pushed harder.
Definitely. And so, yeah, I mean, it's such a wide array of skills.
Right.
It's hard not to dive into them, each of them a little bit before you make that decision of like, okay, I'm going to do bow making because I'm really stoked on that.
Or there's like, which skills do you want to be functional at and which skills like proficient, you know? Like I'm a proficient basket maker in that like I can make a basket that will hold shit, but I don't care about like
if
adding a pattern. Right. Or like, oh, I can put chevrons going around it or
Until
whatever.
your wife makes a much sweeter one.
No, I just know she's going to. And then, you know, I'll nap her tools. Like,
what happens when she naps better tools?
She got pretty good, but then like, you know, she is surprised in Vermont if she sees a plant she doesn't know. I know all the plants I've eaten and put on cuts. You know, like there's just a different level to it. Whereas like she's a competent tracker. She can ID most tracks. She's decent with gait interpretation, but like she hasn't pored over the books and like really pushed it.
Yep.
In the same exact way.
Sat there and beat her head against the ground because she can't see the next track until she saw the next track.
Right.
Yeah.
So like everybody kind of picks and chooses what they're going to get obsessed with, and that's an important thing too, is to not feel like you have to do it all. Like you were saying before, really find those passions, those things that like get you lit up, and let those lead you to everything else. Like, you know, if you're into survival, then this is another thing I would say is like, you got to figure out the leverage points. Like if you're into survival, but you don't know how to navigate, like you're fucking it up.
Yeah.
Like you should look at what causes failure to survive the most and like fix those things. And some of those things are just like, well, this is an interesting one, but like, do you have compasses in your packs? Like, do you have the simplest, cheapest thing you can get to keep you alive that people rarely ever talk about in survival is like a fucking compass?
Yeah.
And then do you look at maps of wherever you're going, they're free, and pick an oh shit direction?
Yep.
And you're like, okay, if I'm lost in this huge area and I walk for a day, it's to the southeast or whatever the hell direction you pick. Like
you're eventually going to get to somewhere you want to be.
Right. And that's like that one skill set, there would be so many less deaths in the wilderness if people just carried a compass and picked an oh shit direction, which is like a $10 solution.
Yeah, seriously.
And again, you know, like gear is another mistake I would say people make. And
either too much or not the right piece for what they're trying to accomplish.
Or just gear obsession. Like I very easily fall into
nerd out to gear.
Exactly.
Yep,
and I'm like,
oh, look at that.
Well, and I kind of on the other
look
side.
Look at the angle of that. Oh, it's good. I mean.
Excuse me. That's too much gear for me. Okay.
Well,
I don't think I need that much gear.
And you're super minimalist.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, which is great.
Turning my nose up at it. But sometimes it's nice to have
you're
that
like,
compass.
yo, let me borrow your towel.
Whatever. That was my towel, okay?
I'm freezing.
I am cold here sometimes, and that's my towel you're borrowing, okay? Golly. That was something that definitely struck me from doing the TV show, and it's not something that I didn't know about already, but it just was like, okay, real survival. You put yourself in that. It's an impossible situation, but you keep having to have that mindset. Okay, make it real. Like, okay, well, what would I do in real life? Because this fishing sucks really fucking bad.
Yeah.
I go somewhere where the fishing was better.
Yeah, exactly. Get up.
Well,
and
in
walk.
that instance, it sucked ass because I couldn't go where the fishing
Right.
was better. So it wasn't better anywhere in my whole area, and so it was like, holy shit! Just being able to travel over there is a huge survival skill.
Oh,
And
right.
and then it's like, what do I really need to get over there? Now, how can I carry all that shit over there?
Right.
Right. And so just traveling on the landscape encumbered when you don't have a backpack. I mean, we had a backpack and wouldn't let us use it, but it was because they wanted us to use our skills to get somewhere else. But, just that, it was like, all right, this might not be worth it if I can't get to where I really need to get, which is anywhere but where I'm at in this area.
And hunting regulations. Like, I've heard that from many people who've done shows is like, the solution, the answer to the question of how do I survive here is to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
places that are denuded of plants and animals.
It's a simple answer, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you're necessarily skilled at it or have the requisite, like I was saying about getting the gear. They're like, all right, so I need to get north in this, or actually it would have been south, but north in this instance, whatever, X number of miles with X type of gear. The simplest way to do that is to move along the shoreline, but there's parts of the shoreline I'm not going with this gear. There's parts of the shoreline I wouldn't want to go without any gear because it's impossibly thick. Now I got to cut inland X distance and find a path and make sure I'm still going north that whole time.
Yeah.
I didn't have the opportunity to really push it in that particular instance because I couldn't
Right.
leave my area, but it definitely got me thinking like, oh shit, like would I really be able to bring these things and do, yeah, okay. I feel like I would, but it's just not something that I necessarily pushed because I wasn't putting the value on traveling.
Right.
And that's
so
huge.
that's right. And that's a mistake I definitely see people make. And you didn't really make this because you didn't have the choice, but I see people jump over the simple solution for the sexy one.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yep.
gear or whether it's like skill based, like people don't want to learn map and compass because they're like, declination, I have to do subtraction? Hell no. I have to remember some basic shit? Oh my God, no way.
Well,
but then they're like, but learn to survive in the woods with nothing? Definitely. Like, it's like, do you actually want to live? Like, figure out what to carry in your backpack.
Well, we get that with the survival trip that we're about to do every year, every single year.
Right.
Like,
people don't want to eat low on the food chain.
No, dude, it's the simplest thing. Like, we can catch these goats by hand pretty easily. We'll just sit and wait, and when they're in between all of us, whoever's in the middle says go, and we all jump up and we catch them by hand. I want to do it with a bow and arrow. Like, what the fuck for? Why would you do that?
Do you want to eat a goat or not?
Exactly. Like, oh, man. And then we had a situation where it was like,
I want to shoot at the goat while he's trying to grab it.
No, totally. It was like no running when the goats are running. Once they're running, you're just running. We're just catching them by hand, and it was the perfect situation. I chased them up. They went up the hill. I got up above them. They turned. The goats turned back down, right towards the people, and I was like, "Yes, we got them." But instead of the person doing this and that, I saw him going like that, and I was like, "No, no." The people behind him thought I was saying no to them, meaning stop moving so you don't get shot in the back. And thankfully they stopped running. But we didn't get the goat because the guy wasn't an archer and hadn't spent all that time.
And
it was
shooting
a
at a
fucking
running goat?
animal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and only because it wasn't as cool to catch them by hand.
Right.
Oh, it's so much cooler to shoot it. I'm like, no, eating
Isn't it
is
cooler?
the coolest fucking
or
thing.
Or you could be like, I caught a goat and killed it by hand.
Well, some people might think
that's more
Nah,
primitive.
it's pretty baller, actually.
Yeah,
You
come
gotta be
on.
honest with you. It's pretty baller. But no, I've seen it.
You wanted to
many
use your
times.
toy so we didn't eat?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
God
Well, how
damn
much
it.
time have you spent with that toy?
Well, that's saying that like somebody who is actually living off the expediency of killing things, like definitely would be like, what the fuck? Like, here's your bow. Like, stab it with the bow. Like, what are you doing? Like, we do it however it works. However it works best is
so
the way
painful.
we do it.
So painful. But and what I don't know that he was thinking that at that time. This is going to be so much cooler,
Right.
But it kind of enters in there, like I made it, and because I made it, it doesn't have value if I don't use it in this specific set. And I'll also hear that too. Oh, well, we made it, but we didn't really use it. Like, well, okay. First of all, you didn't get up in the morning. And then, so let's start with waking up, right? Do you have the skill to wake up in the morning? All right. And if you don't have the skill to wake up in the morning, you don't need the bow.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So it's like you can't. Yeah. I mean, exactly what you're saying. You can't have that cool looking or the sexy choice or like, all right, I put so much time into this that I have to do it because it validates my time. You don't have to catch the goat to validate your time. Like, you made a cool bow. If you ever choose to make another cool bow, you're going to be that much better at it. You're going to have that much more understanding. You'll be that much faster. It's going to be that much nicer.
Right.
Like, that could be validation. Or just having the bow itself could be validation. It doesn't unvalidate it because you caught the goat by hand. Right. It's just a set of circumstances that you were dealt in that moment. And right, what's most important? You want to eat? Sure. Shoot it next time.
Right.
Right. So that's a huge thing, right? You don't have to do it to look cool unless that's all you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Which, another, huge mistake. Sitting there watching those cool YouTube videos to do the cool thing.
Right.
Instead of like going out and doing it yourself. There's
That's a huge
editing
one.
Makes editing makes things either look easier than they actually were, or like look realistic when they're not reasonable for you.
Right.
It's like, I'm not saying that there's no value in looking at somebody else's video, but there's a certain mentality that comes with it that doesn't serve in a survival type situation.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wish everybody could see from my eyes of having like filmed and produced documentaries and movies and shit, like, you can completely rewrite history. Like, I've taken the ends of people's like sentences, not just sentences where I'm switching words out, but the end of people's words and changed them out for another time they said the same word, but with ed instead of ing, or like the amount of power you have as an editor is you can completely rewrite whatever narrative you want, especially if you have tons of footage. And so, like, whether or not YouTubers are doing that or whether or not shows are doing that, like, God only knows. But you have to understand, first of all, if it's a corporation, the job of that corporation is to make money for their shareholders, not to educate people in survival skills. And they have no integrity beyond, like, getting their show made. And, they have more integrity towards, like, giving their crew, their crew members, their camera people and like editors a living wage. Like, that's probably more what they care about than educating the people at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't be able to have their jobs otherwise.
Right, exactly. And then YouTubers, their main goal is probably, and this could be true of us, but if you look at our numbers, it's clearly not.
God damn, what numbers?
But like, the goal is to get lots of people watching. And it's like, I've seen so much bullshit on YouTube, and then I've also had like, people are so used to seeing bullshit on YouTube that, like, we have a video where Sarah makes a hand drill with a hand drill fire and lights it and lights up a fire with it. And because I was trying to be like artsy with the editing, it has cuts, And so people were like, at minute 43, it switches to a man's hands. That wasn't her. So, like, first of all, you're calling my wife's hands manly. Second of all, like, the next video.
That's why you were into her, Brad.
Right, totally.
You're like, damn, look at those hands.
Yeah.
Good God.
But the next video we posted is her just, like, start to finish, one shot with a cell phone, making a hand drill
Moral
fire.
of the story is you must have man hands to make a hand drill fire correctly, Brad.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so silly on the one hand that people don't believe
on the one-man hand?
Yeah, exactly, on the one manly hand, that people don't believe anything. And the second, I get it. Like, there is so much bullshit out there, and there's this guy, White Wolf, that was posting videos that were hilariously full of shit. And there was one where he was like taking quartzite and clacking it onto itself to make sparks, to throw a spark onto, what's it called?
Char cloth,
No, it was
tinder fungus.
tinder fungus, or it was like chaga.
Okay.
He had chunks of chaga, which isn't really that easy to light if you've ever tried to
Yeah,
light
powder
it.
at
Even
first
like
kinda
holding a
helps.
lighter to it. Right. Exactly.
Sucks for you, kid.
You got food in your arms.
Go ask your mom for that. I'm just kidding. But
What?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
Are you gonna edit all that out, Brad?
So he knocks. Yeah, right.
It's getting worse.
So he knocks these sparks onto the tinder fungus or the chaga, and then he's like, "Oops!" and he knocks the chaga off the rock that he's working on, and then he picks up a piece of chaga that's clearly different shaped and has like 3 huge burn marks on it that you could see smoking from behind the rock. And he's like, "Oh, look, it really lit." And it's just like, okay. Like, I get that people are, skeptical about what they see, and they should be.
Damn right they should be.
But, like, if, it's you got to consider the source.
Such a change from when we first started learning this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There was like 4 people you could go to, and no media. I don't want to say no media out there, but really no media out there.
Right. There was no Amazon.com to go order books from. You had to, like, go to your bookstore and be like, "Hey, I heard of this book.
This book, we're sold out."
Yeah. Or like, "No, but maybe we could order it." And like, "Do you know the publisher?" And you're like, "No."
We don't have a survival. Maybe look at the outdoors section.
Yeah, I mean, finding Tom Brown books even was a challenge when I
tricky.
got into the skills. You had to know the publisher and then get them ordered.
Yep, and get to the bookstore before they all get bought. And nowadays, it's like there's so much bullshit.
Yeah, right.
There's so
tons.
much bullshit.
And so and even like picking a school, like even if you are willing to pony up the money,
brutal.
yeah, and go to a school like that, it's hard.
Well, so speaking of like going to schools and going to classes, I think that's another super classic mistake. Is that
Don't go to our school.
Yeah, is that you don't? Is that you go to our school?
It's a
What the fuck is
mistake.
wrong with you? Prove me right or prove me wrong. I gotta go eat a sandwich. So you know, if you haven't done this stuff before and you're trying to get into it, and you go to the school and you spend an entire week or 4 days or whatever your class is, and you do from like the time you're done eating to the time you go to bed, all day you're pouring yourself into this skill, and you get home and you spend 5, 10, 15 minutes working on that thing, and then you don't necessarily value that 5 or 10 minutes because it doesn't match the X number of hours that you put into it. And you think that, oh, I'm never going to get there unless I can dedicate a whole day to it. And then you don't have a whole day, and so you don't dedicate any time to it because you think that you need a whole day to get better at this. Or even like, if I can't sit down and do this for 4 hours and get 5 coals, then I'm not really learning bow drill.
Right.
And people tend to not do it as much because they're not valuing that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes, that 15 minutes that they might actually get. Right. And so it's like compound interest. Sure, in the beginning, that 5 minutes isn't really, it's not worth as much. But once you've done it for 25 hours, you have all that experience to bump up against. Now your 5 minutes is worth much more because you can say, oh, well, it can't be this, that, and that because I already had those problems and I'm not seeing that problem here. Right. And it could be this, that, and that. But maybe, so it's like when you have that experience, your 5 minutes is worth more now. So it's like definitely a mistake that I see happen is people put it off until they have that big chunk of time. And you might not have that chunk of time as soon as you would like it.
Right.
Then you get to that chunk of time and now you haven't put any time into it, right? And so it's like, you could have had 2 hours into this,
Right.
5 minutes a day for like 5-6 months, whatever that is. And then now you finally have that whole weekend. Now you have all that experience from that 5 minutes a day that you spent. So it's like value every second that you can spend doing what you really love doing.
Right.
And if you really don't love it, then, don't do it. Find something about it that you do love and do that.
Right.
Of course, like we were saying, eventually you're going to be out, testing it out. Like, damn, maybe I should have spent time working on shelters. It's really fucking cold that weekend, you know?
I guess, yeah, and that comes back to the initial thing is like, if your goal is how do I, like, if you really truly are like, I need to answer the question, how do I survive on the landscape?
Build a shelter.
With as little as possible, right? Like, you gotta
start with the shelter.
Yeah, then you should, I would say, like, what gear is worth carrying based on, like, the most likely, like, people don't carry med kits, and I'm like,
that's so fucking nuts. I don't carry a med kit.
Right. I mean, I always do. Like, now,
I'm wearing a
Band-Aid,
but I've had it on for 4 days.
Yeah,
Clearly, I don't carry a Band-Aid.
How black that thing was.
That thing is super black.
Is that keeping it clean, or is it holding the dirt in?
No, it's definitely still cut under there. No, it's not holding the dirt in.
But, like, you know, I would say gear worth carrying. Like, a med kit you know how to use. Like, something to fight infection. If you don't know what the local plants are to fight infection, you should learn them. Mm-hmm. Navigation. And then, shelter, water, fire, food. And, like, with water, like, if you are at all worried you might die of dehydration and you don't carry something to purify water quickly and easily, like drops or the water purification pills, like, in your med kit, they just go in the med kit. It's just another tiny thing in the med kit that's like, do I have 10 days of water? Great.
Well, then
or
make
like
sure.
carry one of these so you can just put this thing in a fire and boil it, and you're good to go. Like, those kinds of things, those basics, if you're, need to answer that question, and then you follow the chain of, like, we call it PACE plan, or the military calls it a PACE plan, but they use it for, like, when groups are separating and need to come back together. It's a mentality you can apply to lots of things, though: primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. And, like, it's so useful if you just think through, okay, what's my nav, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency? What's my shelter, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency? What's my, and you go through shelter, water, fire, food.
To think about, Brad.
But it's one sentence for each thing. And if you truly are worried about not dying in the woods, which, like, some people
I'm most worried about not enjoying myself.
Yeah,
oh, wait, no. I'm most worried about not looking cool while I do it.
When I was 18, though, and it was, like, the days of Y2K, and we thought all the electricity was going to shut off at once.
Did you really think that was going to happen?
No, I just hoped it would.
Oh, God, I was so hoping. Turn it all off.
Yeah, exactly.
We're fucked, and I'm only 19.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I could see that much more clearly then. Now I'm like, but it's not that bad. I got kids. And, like, I don't want my parents.
Oh, it's not that bad. I
don't want my parents to just die in the cold, because I'm not going to go down to Massachusetts to save them.
I really like watching surfing on YouTube.
Exactly, right. Exactly. But
there's still going to be waves after the Armageddon, because, oh, shit, I got a new board. I don't like wooden boards. Maybe that can just be put off a couple years. Well, the crowds will be smaller.
Yeah.
So I need a huge quiver of boards for the Armageddon.
Will I have the calories to go surfing?
Whoops, calories. What are those?
But yeah, so, like, if you truly are, though, like, a person who's, okay, I want survival skills, then those things are worth thinking about. Otherwise, it really is a thing of, like, what is your goal? If it's just more enjoyment or a little bit more comfort, or,
gear it up for that.
Yeah, or figure out what's fun about it. Like, if what's fun about it is the lowest amount of gear, like, you take pride and joy in, like, surviving with as little gear as possible, great.
I just hate carrying shit, Brad.
Yeah.
It's not about pride and joy in anything. I just hate carrying shit. Yep, that's right. Chickens abound. Yeah, I was thinking when we were talking about what we were going to do for this episode, I was like, what mistakes are common mistakes? And then I was thinking about, what mistakes did I made? I didn't make any mistakes. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at me.
Not a one.
Oh, man. So I would say that I thought I needed to do all of it at once.
Yeah.
I thought I got to leave it all at home. I started with, like, okay, I'm just going to bring a little bit of food. And then it was very quickly like, okay, let me just not bring the shelter, and I'll just start with that. But in that very first part, I just thought if I didn't go with nothing, I'm not really practicing it. Or, like, oh, this bow drill doesn't count because I'm using a knife to do it with, and You know, it's like you cripple yourself with that because you don't know how to make a good knife blade and you don't know how to use it to carve a bow drill kit, and you don't even know what fucking wood to use in the first place to do your bow drill kit, and your form is no good, and you don't even have time to do any of that shit anyway because you have to spend all your time building your shelter, which you're really not good at building your shelter, and you don't know what to do to fix your shelter, and you better drink some water before you die.
Yeah.
So pick the one thing and start with that. Dial that in, and then, like, let's say that's fire. You got it dialed in because you didn't bring it for X number of weeks, and now you get it like consistently. Now just bring the lighter and do the shelter, right? Or maybe you start with shelter, and then maybe you bring a bivy bag, right? So once you've gotten proficient with the skill, you don't have to take it away to get better at the other ones if that doesn't fit with the amount of time and space that you have. You can get really good at it and then give yourself some slack, like, okay, I'm just going to focus on this other skill now because I feel proficient with that skill right there. And then at some point, bring it all together.
Right.
Right? And I'm not saying don't bring it all together. Just do that, but, like, you don't have to, okay, now I got that one, now I'm never going to bring that again.
Right.
And then the next one, and now I'm never bring that again, right? Because you might not have time.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, it's, with, like, the bow making class, people are like, oh, we're going to use Dacron for strings. And it's like, yeah, building a primitive chord from what we have here is harder than making a bow.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to make a string that will reliably take the shock of a 50-pound bow. Oh, yeah. Like, without, some magic material like Sansevieria around.
It's so magical. So I was just telling somebody with these bamboo bows, it was like, you're going to spend more time on that string than you are on that bow. And afterwards, he was like, I definitely spent more time. I mean, he was an experienced bow maker, but he was like, definitely more time on that string than on that bow.
And so it's like, what are you trying to learn? Are you trying to make to advanced cordage, or are you trying to make a bow? And like, yes, if you follow the path long enough, one is the other. And now you're learning about, like, the habits of plants and which fields will grow the best dogbane and when,
what time
or like
of year is best for
how to
that
do an
dogbane.
8-stranded braid out of sinew so that it doesn't slip apart when it gets wet, or like whatever path you follow. But like at first,
sinew.
Yeah, because it makes a square braid.
I gotta get to work.
Yeah, if you make a square braid essentially out of sinew, then you're not reverse wrapping it. So if it gets wet, it can't pull apart because it's essentially just a long string of knots.
Yep.
We got to see the Sudbury bow in the museum where it is, in the Peabody Museum, and it had a fucking square braided sinew string on it. And I was like, what?
Was it strung backwards?
No. Oh my
God.
God.
In like some national park in Utah looking at this bow, and I was like, oh, just like.
Was it
wrecked.
a recurve?
No, it was just like little, it was a small snap bow, and it looked to be sinew back. It was hard to tell because the back of the bow was facing in towards the background. And you could see the handle, and you could see the splits in the handle from where they strung it back. Luckily, it was kind of low strung, so it didn't fully destroy it, but I was just like, and there's nobody to talk to. And what are you going to do? Go to the museum director? Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
But as an advanced level bow maker, I have to tell you, you got this thing strung backwards. Right? It's not going to go far. It was pain.
Just let your heart hurt for a minute.
God.
Say a prayer for whoever made that bow.
Yep. Sorry that you. Okay, I didn't tell that joke. Woo! All right.
But yeah, so like with. Like you're saying, you got to pick and choose what your focus is and work on that one thing. Yeah, I mean, we have this class.
Or I was more thinking, pick the times to do all of it.
Right.
Don't try to do all of it all the time.
Right.
Right. Do that, master it to the level you feel good about, and then don't add that into the mix when you're learning the next thing, because you're not going to have enough time.
Sure.
For most people.
Sure. It's like we have this video up, and it's of our celt making class. And so we have 4 days, which is really just enough time to make the head.
One.
Right. To make the head. And then because you spend half a day napping it or like breaking it down, and then you peck it for a day, and then you grind and peck for a day, and then you grind for a day, and then you haft it. And the hafting, I have people use metal tools because it's like, I don't have, first of all, 10
well, that doesn't count,
10
Brad.
chisels, but the video of it that's on on YouTube most of the comments are like, this was great until you use metal tools, kind of defeats the purpose. And it's like, building a handle is a different skill, and the real skill of building the handle isn't can you do it with stone tools.
Do you have a stone tool to make that shit with in the first place?
Right, but it's like, can you mortise the hole so that it's only touching the celt in the top and the bottom so that it actually doesn't spit the head out?
Yep.
And then can you make it comfortable? Like, that's the really a skill. Whether you reduce that with stone tools or metal tools isn't really what impresses me about it. Like, I've made them with all stone tools. It's a cool process. But
you're not doing that in 4 days, period.
Yeah.
You could have just a class of making celt heads,
Well,
and then just a class of making handles.
The handles, right. Well, and the best way to do that is to do it with green wood and then let it dry.
Well, and then you need a class for flint knapping so that you can make that knife blade so you can rasp it down. Then a class of how to use the stone tools to reduce the thing.
And it's like,
then a class of handles.
Yeah, our celt making class costs $20,000.
And it's 14 consecutive weekends.
Exactly, like, yeah.
And you got to feed yourself. Primitively the whole time.
Right, exactly. That's like.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that was the YouTube mentality. All them.
Yeah, it's
all
just
them
like
haters out there.
Well, and it's people who probably don't actually work on skills, or they would get it. Like, or during a bow class, I'll reduce people's bows with the bandsaw. Like, they get it to a ring, we draw it out, we cut it out, or I cut it out, and it's like, if you are good enough with a draw knife to cut out a stave to a ring, like
you don't need Brad to help you with shit at that point.
Exactly.
You can just describe it and
sit at the draw horse for another 4
totally.
hours with a sharpened draw knife and bring it to the lines that I'm about to cut it to in 15 minutes.
Yep.
And since you're paying me by the day, give me that
thing.
And like, we had this one dude who is really good with a carving axe, and he's like, can I take it down with an axe? And I was like, let me see you get started. And I watched him for 15 seconds, and I was like, you're good.
Sure.
And
pad that thing on the bottom.
Yeah. No, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He did it perfectly. He brought it right to the lines, and then was like, good. I'm like, good. Thanks for saving me the 15 minutes of cutting your shit out.
Yeah, it's definitely something with certain classes, like the bow making class. It's like, I just want to let you know this right now. You're not making a bow this week. I'm making a bow this week, and you're learning how to make the bow this week. Right. I'm going to make you do some work, and you're going to learn how to do the work. This is what you're learning. You're learning how to use the tools, and you're learning how to make a bow. But in reality, I'm making the bow.
Right.
And that's what you're paying for, right? Otherwise, watch 20 YouTube videos and then make your own bow.
Right.
You know, so...
or try 5 times.
And so along those lines, like, a good thing to remember, a mistake beginners make is like to realize when you go to take that class, you're learning how to do the thing.
Right.
Right. And to take that home and like, okay, what were the things that were the hardest for me about this, right? Using the fucking draw knife correctly, or following the lines, or when he told me to feel it and look at it, I didn't really know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
Right. So then you focus on those things, not necessarily making a bow, or maybe you're making a bow, but now my focus on this first one is how to feel the thing and see it like he was seeing it. And then my next time is, how to use the knife in this way. So, like, just having that in your mind, like, it's more about learning how to do the thing, not like making the thing.
Yeah.
And,
that brings to mind an idea about, like, an approach to learning is swap between research and experience. Mm-hmm. Like, don't hole yourself up in one or the other. Like, one really serves the other.
An open-minded research.
Right. And research...
It's too easy to be like, oh, that's fucking bullshit. Look at the way they did that. Fuck that. That's not how I learned.
And research could just be like going to a class. Like, that is, in a sense, like you're getting a resource.
Totally. Reading a book.
Right. But that, like, this is another mistake I see people make, is they think that taking the class is going to get them anywhere with the skills.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, it's a good start. It's a good resource. But until you go do it a lot, and even if the class is hands-on, it's still like, it was maybe my 5th bow before things really clicked, and I was like, oh, I understand the very simple sentence, where it's too thick, take some off, or where it doesn't bend enough, it's too thick, reduce it. Where it's too thin, it will bend too much, leave it alone. Like, it was, many bows deep before I was like, Oh, this very simple rule has now become clear to me. Look at it hinging where it's too thin.
I remember learning basket making, and Ruth Ann's teaching how to, okay, so at this point you just go over, under, over, under, and there's this person next to me, and he's like, over, under, over, under, over. Like raises his hand.
What comes after over?
This guy's fucked. He's never making a fucking basket again. Ever. I need me a woman make me a basket. Sorry to whoever that is. So if you don't remember me, because he had big arms, might kick my ass.
Yeah. Well, that is something, is like, you should try not to be too dumb.
It's the biggest mistake I see. People are totally stupid about it. I'm surrounded by idiots, and that's the number one mistake. Don't be a total moron.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think a lot of things we've talked about are like how people get in their own way, or how they make themselves dumber by like.
Totally.
It's like awareness. Whenever I'm teaching awareness, I'm like, you're already as aware as you'll ever be when you decide to be aware, and you're already as unaware.
In that instant.
Right. And in that instant, when you start thinking about the fight you had with your wife or what you need to do tomorrow, you're as unaware as you'll ever be.
All over. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just like...
It's not a place to reach. It's a place to inhabit.
Well, and that's honestly... So this is an interesting thing, and is that of all the skills, if I could have people learn one that would help them learn all the others...
Yeah, it's awareness.
Tracking and awareness.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be awareness.
Because it teaches you how to look hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you teach you to pay attention.
Right.
Right? And teach you to make the choice to pay attention.
Right.
And it's, god damn, it's why it's so fucking hard. Just keep making the choice.
Just
make the choice and make the choice and make the choice and make the choice until it makes itself.
And it beats you into observations, not judgments.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to just be full of shit with tracking completely, you have to be like, wait, what am I seeing? What, like the answer can wait a minute.
You don't get to see that, Brad, because you don't like that.
I don't like that at all.
You don't get to see it, okay? Because you don't like that. I made the choice for you, Brad. You don't like that. Exactly. Is right.
But yeah, no, that observation over judgment thing is...
Totally. Oh, man, it's tough. And then, that's not how we're brought up in our society. We value the judgment, right? What was the grade you got on it, right? Grading it, testing you on it, right? Instead of just, putting it in front of people and teaching them to pay attention to it in the first place. So.
Yeah.
That it? Have we beaten this dead horse? Is this dead horse beaten here?
I think that's pretty good.
Good God, we could have gone in, because we could have started with any one skill.
Right.
Or the Bojo mistakes, or the shelter mistakes, or anything. God, so many mistakes to make.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's like a good thing to remember, right? Like, make advantage of all the mistakes, whether they're yours or somebody else's mistakes.
Right. That's probably
the observation over judgment. Well, that dude sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's like learn from your mistakes. It seems obvious, but if you're not...
Or learn from other people's mistakes.
Right. And if you're not willing to do that, then you shouldn't learn these skills.
Yeah, and not judge the mistake that the other person makes, but to learn from it each time.
Yeah.
No matter... Or, like, I keep saying the same mistake, and I'm tired of correcting that mistake. Oh, well, maybe I should just, like, really harp on that mistake that I keep seeing. Right? Really just, okay, I see this time and time and time again. Straighten your arm, right? Get your chest over top of your knee, right? And then the pressure will be easy. Or like,
oh, that's funny. You have people straighten
in
their left arm?
You don't?
No.
Not perfectly straight.
If I see people putting too much weight on the spindle, then when it wobbles, they lose balance. And the amount of downward pressure you really need with your left arm is not that much.
Well, no, not with your left arm.
So I have people rest their upper body on their knee, and then I have them make sure they're bowing well and that their wrist is locked in the right position. And then once they're using their whole bow and they're like actually bowing well, then I'll say, all right, now add increments of downward pressure a little bit at a time until you get smoke.
Yeah, see, I find the downward pressure tends to be. I mean, it depends. If it's like a muscly dude, I don't say anything about. I just say lock your wrist in. But for a lot of people, it's that downward pressure. They don't necessarily have the coordination to use the arm strength they have. So I usually have people straighten not perfectly straight.
Yeah.
And I demonstrate, but I have them straighten their arm and get their chest over top of their knee. But I usually go with a straighter arm than a bent arm.
Yeah.
And that's how I do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I found it made people wobbly. But
wow, they're learning from you. Number one mistake: you went to root school.
Oh man, yeah. So we'll get back to this topic at some point, or maybe we'll do like top mistakes for specific skills.
You're too stupid for this skill. Number one mistake. Talking to myself.
Yeah.
So,
no.
like and subscribe.
Do that.
Tell us what you want to listen to.
Yeah. I'm
excited. Keep watching. Tell a friend.
For the next one.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, peace out.
Peace out.